Okay, so on day two of my 12-day trip to Rome and to Crete and Turkey and Greece, there was a little situation that happened on one of the subways in Rome. Got on to the subway to go check out some things. My plan was to go out and venture a little bit. My friend Jeff, who I was on the trip with, was tired. He decided to go back to the room and take a nap, and I wanted to go out and see some more. So, what did I do? But I went out and decided to get on the metro subway and go to the Pantheon. That was my plan. So I went on to one of the trains and had to make a connection at the Rome terminal, the main hub where all the trains meet, to get onto a different train, to go a different colored train because their lines are in colors, and to go to the Pantheon. And as I was getting onto the train, I noticed that it was packed. The train was absolutely packed. So got onto the train and had to kind of push in, and there really wasn't anywhere for me to stand other than or to sit down for sure. I just had to stand. And so I had one hand in my left pocket of my shorts because that's where my wallet was. And the other hand, my right hand, was reaching up to grab the ring that was ahead of me, up above me, so I could, steady myself as the train moved, even though it was packed with people. I started to want to fall into somebody. So I was hanging on, and then just as the doors were about to close, a guy pushed in at the very last second right up against me. And immediately, I did not like this guy because, first of all, he crowded in right at the very last second and the doors closed, so I knew I was stuck. My arm was stuck above my head, my right arm, so I couldn't bring it down to put my hand in my pocket, my right pocket, where my cell phone was. And this guy, I just didn't like the way he looked. He had some very strange tattoos of cartoon characters on his arm. He just had a look on his look. I just had a look that I just didn't trust him from the get-go. He just looked like somebody that I should be worried about. And so I wanted to have my phone in my hand in my pocket with my phone. And of course, I couldn't get it down there because it was stuck. And then he shifted around a couple times during the trip and had this very uneasy, creepy looking smile on his face. And I didn't like the guy. I didn't like him at all. And then, of course, about 30 seconds later, when the train actually stopped at its destination where I needed to get off, he took off immediately out the door. And then, of course, my first thing I did was put my hand in my pocket, and of course, my phone was gone. I knew it was going to happen. And so I immediately saw the guy right then and yelled, "You have my phone. You stole my phone." And I went up to the guy, and I don't know what I was thinking. I was probably a very stupid idea, but I started patting the guy down to try to see if this guy had my phone in his pocket. And I felt a phone in his pocket and in his side pocket. And he said, "No, no, 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 no." And he picked up out a phone out of his pocket, but I think it was out of a different pocket. And he showed me a phone that clearly was not my phone. And I just knew this guy had my phone, or maybe he dished it off to a friend of his, somebody else who was working with him. And before I knew it, it was over. So, of course, I have an Apple Watch, and I decided to use my watch to try to ping my phone to make a sound with it as the guy was taking off. And it didn't make any sound, didn't hear anything. I'm guessing the phone was already turned off. I mean, these guys are pretty slick. And that was it. Unfortunately, like I said, I was day two of a 12-day trip to Rome. And so what I had to do was to go to in the terminal, try to find some police, try to find somebody who could take a police report because I assumed I would need a police report because, I have to do insurance to get a new phone or whatever I need to do in America. And I waited for about 2.5 hours outside by the time I finally found somebody who was able to help me because it was a holiday in Rome, and so everything was closed, and there were very few security guards who were still around. It was the end of the tourist day, and so most people were leaving. That's why the train was so packed. And so when I finally got to where I needed to be to file a police report, I stopped for 2.5 hours, eventually talked to some guy who could speak enough English to help me out, a police officer, and I filed the report. And then that was a problem. So that night I called my phone company to try to get a new phone, and they were going to send me a new phone, but of course the new phone was going to be sent to my home in Ohio, and I was going to get it in another day or two. and that wasn't going to help me on the rest of my 10-day long remaining part of my trip into the Mediterranean. So anyway, I um, decided to try to buy a new phone. I wanted to find a new one. It was a holiday in Rome, everything was closed. The very next day, we were at a full day um, trip to get to our next destination, which was Naples. And in Naples, it was a Sunday. And of course, the shops are all closed on Sunday. Couldn't buy a phone anywhere there. Then we had a whole day at sea. And then I couldn't get a phone there. And then the next day after that, we ended up in Crete and ended up buying a used iPhone from a shop in Crete, and I'm pretty sure that phone was probably stolen from somebody else at one point. This place looked very shady to me, but the phone worked. I was able to turn it on. It was blanked out. I was able to clear everything, all the data, and then I was able to get it registered. And of course, I didn't have signal because my American SIM card wasn't active on that phone. The networks were different, whatever. But I was able to use it to take pictures, and I was able to, and that was really the thing that was concerning me the most was taking pictures on my trip. And I am very happy and blessed that the photos I had taken those first 2 days in Rome, the Vatican, all the sites in Rome, the Forum, the Palatine Hill, those pictures were uploaded to the cloud, and I was able to re-download those, and I really didn't lose anything, and it worked out okay. But that was my interesting experience with my cell phone in Rome. So moral of the story, make sure you have a zippered pocket and be very careful when you go to a big city, especially in a foreign country, with your phone and your wallet.